Hello and welcome to yet another preview on Stretty News TV. This time we're going to be looking at West Ham. We're playing late kick-off on Saturday at Upton Park. West Ham, they could be considered a bogey team for United. A few people might christen that. But on the panel tonight, without Serge, we have got Ian Patterson from Reclaim United. How are you, Ian?
I'm alright, pal.
Good stuff. Jonathan, how's it keeping?
Yeah, it's all good.
Looking forward to the game of the weekend?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Can't wait.
I think the game against Olympiacos has always given a bit of a boost, so it's a bit more bouncy tonight. I think we're all smiling and all willing to go and laugh and have a good time. So, in West Ham this season, where are they in the league, and form-wise, how are they doing?
They're sitting, I'd say, pretty at 12th, but with only 31 points. They're one of those teams that if they had a couple of bad results, they get dragged into that relegation battle with the last month or so of the season coming up. They've lost their last two games and two away games as well. Against Stoke 3-1 and Everton they lost 1-0. But the four previous to that they'd won on the bounce. So they're not having too bad at the season, I don't think. But like I say, a couple of bad results, and especially if United take 3 points there, they could be dragged into a relegation battle.
As you said about those two games that they did lose, when they had Andy Carroll out suspended after being sent off controversially, they won all their games without him, and as soon as he came back, they lost the two games with him in the team. So if we're going to get Johnny to talk about West Ham's firepower, now up front they haven't got many options, have they, John?
No, sort of. We were discussing it before, weren't we, with Andy Carroll and the fact that he was suspended and he's come back. But he's not really been massively prolific this year, and I don't think, looking at the statistics, any of the strikers have been particularly prolific. And I think that's probably prompted them to buy Borriello in the transfer window. And obviously he's injured for Saturday, so they are sort of struggling for firepower up front. I think they tend to rely on kind of attacking midfielders pushing through the middle, so the likes of your Nolans, Nobles, Joe Cole chipping in with goals. So I think probably we'll have to be equally as mindful of the midfielders as we will be of the attackers.
They've obviously got Matt Jarvis too, who I think when he bursted onto the scene in English football, he was quite a prospect. He looked like lots of potential, but at West Ham he hasn't really fulfilled that. He's kind of been a bit of a hit and miss player, and looking at the game the weekend, he's not really a player I'd be quite frightened of. When years ago I probably would be thinking in a few years' time he'd be giving us a bit of a rough ride. But look, as you mentioned with their attack players, and they obviously got Nolan, it seems like Sam Allardyce likes bringing him wherever he goes. But Sam Allardyce, he's a manager that makes me laugh a small bit, because he's very he's well able to throw the boot at the players and whenever things aren't going their way. But as soon as they turn it around, it's all about Sam Allardyce. The way he can turn around himself, and he kind of a lot of self-praise and that. But obviously United defensively, it seems that in recent weeks we haven't been too bad. I think it's in the last 2 to 3 away fixtures in the league we've kept clean sheets. So when you look at West Ham and their firepower up front, it doesn't look too bad. But when you see a player like Andy Carroll who can play well, and he's a big presence up front, and whenever we come up against a kind of a presence like that, some defenders do tend to struggle. I remember Peter Crouch this season at Old Trafford and the Britannia. They can be a bit of a handful. Do you see that being the case, Ian?
Yeah, of course, every team could be a handful at times, and they've got a few in the midfield, Stuart Downing, like you say, Kevin Nolan, and Matt Jarvis. If he plays, better than he plays up to his game, then of course those three. And I think that they'll probably try to sit and then counter at United, especially for the fact of how badly United are at the back this season. So that could be a key point. Maybe they'll hold the possession of the ball a lot better. United have struggled to do that at times this season. 49% was the possession against Olympiacos, even though we dominated about 50 minutes of that game. So It's gonna be quite interesting to see where we actually stand regarding possession and use of that possession. You know, United fans will know that we don't get that many shots on target this season, and I think there was only 5 came out of the Olympiacos game as well. So it could be key, but it's not a tie that we can't win. You know, we've explained. You know, they've not got much firepower, and hopefully that United will relieve the defensive pressure on United, and hopefully that confidence boost of overturning the tie against the Olympiacos will come as a massive boost for the forwards especially.
As we always do, we're going to go through the panel's starting 11 for the weekend. Jonathan, who and why?
Well, we were discussing them, weren't we? And apparently Evans and Smalling are doubtful, aren't they? So it's looking like we'll have to stick with, and obviously Vidic, you mentioned, suspended. So it looks like we're probably going to have to stick with the same centre-back partnership, which is a slight concern, obviously, with kind of Rio's, is Rio going to be fit enough and sharp enough to play twice in 3 days? Like you said as well, playing against that Andy Carroll, who's likely to give him a hard time at the back. So that's a little bit of a concern, but I actually thought they were both very steady on Wednesday. Some people said it was, effectively De Gea that kept us in the tie and that we didn't defend that well. But at the end of the day, we kept a clean sheet. So I thought Jones and Rio looked fairly solid together. But yeah, so obviously Jones and Rio at the back, Evra left back, Raphael right back. So same back four, David in net, obviously. And then probably, are we going to do defence, or are we going to go through the whole team?
Whole team.
Whole team. Then I'm going to go 3 in midfield with Fellaini, Carrick and Valencia. Just for as I said before, I think that one of their main threats really is going to come through the midfield, like people arriving into the box late, that kind of thing. So I think the extra bit of security at the back with Carrick and Fellaini and Valencia, obviously, who can provide a little bit of extra reinforcement back there. And then really up front, I'd play Mata in the hole, give him a chance more centrally, and go for it with Rooney and Welbeck both up front. Obviously, on the back of Wednesday's game, Welbeck was fantastic, even though he was out wide. I'd like to see him up front.
And obviously, we've got Robin van Persie out injured, which seems to be the case.
Exactly, and we're all clamouring to see Mata in that traditional number 10 role to see how he can do. So if he's in that role and he has 2 runners like Rooney and Welbeck ahead of him, potentially he could be devastating with the balls that he feeds into them. So I would like to see that formation.
Definitely a strong team. Ian, where are you on this?
I'm going to have to go with the exact same back four. It seems to be the only back four. Unfortunately, unless one of those 2 centre backs gets injured, then that's going to be a case of Michael Carrick dropping back. In which case, I wouldn't really want to see that, to be honest. But yeah, same back four. De Gea in net, solid all season. I'm going to put Carrick and Fellaini in the middle. I'm going to, like Jonathan says, hold there quite well. I'm going to take Valencia out. I think that he played a full 90 minutes, but I don't think he's going to be too match sharp. And we'll see how his eyes looking as well. It would be a bit of a strange one to see if he comes back from looking that badly after he looks like he took 10 rounds with Mike Tyson. But I'd put in Nani in there with Mata and Kagwa. I think that sometimes that you've got to stop overplaying Januzaj. He's young and he's done superb this season, but he needs to have a couple of games rest and possibly play him in the Champions League later on. And there's a question to come up later that we'll touch on again. And I think Rooney leaving Welbeck on the bench to bring on if he needs to change anything.
That's your team then?
That's my team, pal.
Right, I'm going to go through mine. It is quite similar. We've all got the same back four. Obviously, De Gea is a no-brainer. In midfield, the 2 I'm going to play in front of the back four is a bit of a change. I'm going to start Fellaini. I haven't got Carrick in my team. I think he's due a rest and he's played a lot of football lately. And I would like to see Darren Fletcher start. I know he came on against Olympiacos, but it's been quite a while since he started a game. And even this season, I know he's come back from an horrendous illness. But he's been one of our better performers whenever he's played. He hasn't really looked like a player that's been out for so long. He's quite tidy in possession, and he still gets stuck in. He's still the engine he used to be as well. Maybe not to the same degree, but he's still certainly an engine. The three in front of that, I'm going to go for Mats on the right, Rooney in the centre, and I've got Kagawa on the left. Now, I know people who say Kagawa on the left, he's better through the hole. Those three players are all better in the hole. And you have to find a way to facilitate them all, whether you change the formation. But I think this season, when United have played a 4-2-3-1 with real attacking players, we haven't looked too bad. It's only the matter of when we have these players and we don't facilitate them, and we sit back. And even though we have really attack-minded players on the pitch, there's been times this season and we've kind of just ignored that and just done it otherwise. Up top on his own, seeing as Van Persie's out, I've got Danny Welbeck. I think it's actually been the last 3 games against Liverpool, Olympiacos, and now West Ham that I've called for Danny to start. And he started against Olympiacos, and as the lads said last night, and after the Olympiacos game, and as Johnny said, he works hard, tremendously hard, and he gets behind defenders, and he's a bit of a nightmare because he pulls them out of different positions, and I like that because he works really hard. He's a Manchester lad as well. So that's my starting 11. I think we're all quite similar, lads.
Can I change there? I completely forgot about Fletcher. He's evaded my memory there because he's, for some reason, like I say, had a couple of good games and then he's been completely underutilised thereafter. I don't know if he had a bad reaction sort of physically or what have you after those games. We never found out, but yeah, I think actually I would like to put in Fletcher instead of Carrick.
I'm just gonna pick up on a couple of those points there. In actual fact, Fletcher came on against Villa at Villa Park. I was at Villa Park for that game, and he was absolutely got massive respect from both sets of fans when he came on the pitch. And the United fans were singing, "If he scores, we're going on the pitch." It was quite good, and he played quite well there. And then I'm not too sure which home game it was afterwards, but he played absolute blind. And I remember reviewing it with you guys, and he was shouting at, I think it was Kagwa, he was shouting out to get back and things like that. He just led the whole squad for an entire 90 minutes. So yeah, I like that one. And Danny Welbeck has been on superb performance on away games as well this season. So he's another person to have a good shout at. And I think he scored 2 against Villa in that to go back to that Villa game in actual fact.
But even I think this season, I think it's been well documented by some of the fanzines. That of all the players we've heard about bust-ups in the dressing room and people discontent with David Moyes, but the one players that has kind of put whatever he thought behind him and just basically worked hard and done all he could for a manager is Darren Fletcher. And I know you're going to have some professionals that look, we're world class and we want a world class manager. Look, if there's a good few of them, I can start to see where they're coming from. But I think it is fantastic to see that kind of professional still in the game. There's not many of them around still, but the fact that he was always willing and he came back into training this season, worked tremendously harder than other players in the team that you'd expect more from, came into some of the games this season, and as the lads touched on, performed superbly well. And I think it's a fantastic story, given the disease and the illness he had, to bounce back and to be still playing that level at Manchester United. And to be considered on this show to be wanting to start a Premier League fixture. So that people were ruling him out from doing that. People were ruling him out from playing the game again. So I think, it's a fantastic turnaround for Darren Fletcher.
It does beg the question, why hasn't he came in, he had those sort of 2 or 3 sort of very impressive displays, and then we've barely seen him since, didn't we really? So I don't know whether physically he couldn't quite handle in quick succession playing those games. He needed another rest. But like you say, he was brought on Wednesday, so that would indicate that he is ready to play again. So yeah, now that you've mentioned it, definitely. And kind of there, that sort of segues into another point as well. The kind of antithesis of that attitude you're talking about there with Fletcher is Ravel Morrison. And unfortunately, it's kind of a shame we're not going to see one of our old boys at West Ham. But it seems that the old issue has resurfaced because he had a great start there. Everyone's sort of lauding him as a fantastic player, as we all knew anyway. But it seemed that maybe his attitude was improving as well. And then he's obviously been he's now on loan at QPR, so something's obviously happened there for him to have maybe a rift with Allardyce or what have you.
It does make you think though, because we've all been in the position. Young lads, I'm still young, and when I played, I've always kind of had the. Can you imagine having that potential and to be at Manchester United and be praised one of the best youngsters coming out of the system since Paul Scholes, and to have that put on your head, but still not have the mindset to kind of say, right, I need to knuckle down right now, and I need to kind of put my head in shape and try and make the most of my football career I can, because I have the potential to make it at a club like Manchester United. And you have to kind of think, well, how can you respond to that by, I'm not going to say bad behaviour. Who am I to tell whoever he is, Rabel Morrison, you're not to behave like that? But I'm kind of saying, like, if you have that chance, it's a real shame and a real pity to kind of just throw it away.
Massive shame. I mean, look at all the kind of controversial characters that Fergie has felt capable of tempering over the years, and obviously, he's looked at this lad and said he's even beyond my possibilities of getting through to him. So for Fergie to not fancy the challenge, spoke volumes at the time when he left for West Ham. So yeah, it's a massive shame. You see those videos going viral of him doing ridiculous back heel volleys from corners, and you just think, this lad at United could have been a superstar. So yeah, it is a shame, really.
But even that team he came from, the 2010 FAU Cup winning side, that team has just seemed to really disintegrate, and just some of the players, the top players in that team, have ended up everywhere. And obviously you got Paul Pogba, a great shame, but obviously his head wasn't really in it either, and he saw money, and so did his agent, and he went off to Juventus. But and you look at him right now, and he's a serious talent. But you also got other players that were in that team that they've ended up elsewhere, lower league teams. And I gotta ask myself recently that did the club do enough with the other players to break him into a first team? I'm not saying all those players were capable of doing so, but
Cliff was the one of the trio, wasn't he? That kind of came through.
Yeah.
I think he had a couple of sub appearances, and it seemed like maybe of the trio, he was the one that was going to break into the side. For whatever reason, it didn't happen. I think he went on loan somewhere, didn't he? And is he at Fulham now or something? Or he went to Fulham?
He went to Fulham, yeah. So did Larnell Cole, and I know one of them have went on loan there recently. And it seemed when Rene got the axe, it seemed the new manager, when he came in, he wasn't too interested either, which was a great pity, because you'd like to see players like that, even if they don't make it at United, you'd like to see them look after and make a good career elsewhere maybe. But we're going off a bit off topic and a preview. We're going to answer some questions that we've been given on Twitter from some of the viewers. Ian, obviously Patrice Evra got his yellow card during the week against Olympiacos, and he will miss the first leg of whoever we're drawn against in the Champions League quarter-finals. Palash asks, should Butner start so that he can play some game time before the quarter-final first leg?
Well, we've got some time before that first leg, and I think the first point is after you've got that 3-0 win and the getting through the Champions League against Olympiacos is to try and get a run of form going. So that's why I put Evra back in there, and we've all put Evra back in there. I think Butler should be used if he is to start in that Champions League match. But I don't think it's going to be this weekend. I probably doubt that you put him in against City too.
It is a bit early still though, isn't it? The draw hasn't even been made yet.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's going to be maybe after the City match, like we'll say, the league's over anyway. But the point is, then those major matches for the rest of the season are pretty much whoever you want in, really. Unfortunately, for United at this stage.
John, do you think David Moyes will go all out and try make it difficult for West Ham?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like that. The quote that he came out with, isn't it, in the Newcastle press conference about trying to contain Newcastle. I presume when he asks the question, he means going all out attack. Yeah, Yeah, obviously, on the back of Wednesday's result, we'd like to hope that we can go there. I mean, when you said before, it's a bit of a not a bogey side, but a team that we've struggled against historically. But I was kind of looking through the old results, and there was a period. I think there was a period in the middle of the noughties when we lost two consecutive games at Upton Park in the league. But since then, I was actually looking at the results, and it's not been too bad. We've probably had the better of the encounters, so that's positive for us as well. There was a couple of 4-0s, one for them in the League Cup and one for us the season before in the Premier League, but they're anomalies really. But generally, we've done all right at Upton Park, so I'm quite hopeful for this weekend. And yeah, I think we'll go there and we'll be confident, and hopefully we'll get the job done.
Ian, we have touched on already youngsters. We spoke about the team with the FA U Cup winners in 2010. Pat Ash has sent in another question. He's asked, should we give youngsters opportunity in the league now that we're not going to get top four and that we haven't really got much to play for in regards to the league? Should we give some of the young lads a bit of a chance with some experience in the league?
Yeah, I don't see why not. It's especially the youth levels at the moment are literally just playing their own games, and you see Fergie did this thing of constantly swapping and changing and bringing one. I think we're still on the whole record of having at least one in the squad every game at the since God knows when. So yeah, I can't see why we can't bring in the youth and play them and see what they can do. Unfortunately, Moyes got a slagging off one of his former colleagues at Everton during the week about how he left Everton's youth squad quite well alone, which I think is a bit strange when in fact you think of where Baines came from. But I'd hope that he's learned that lesson and that this is United and we do play a lot of our youth and we do try and bring them through. So I'd hope to see a lot more of our youth. James Wilson played in the FA Youth Cup match I watched at Huddersfield. He was superb. I think maybe bring in David Pachucci, another one that you could fit in for at least a game. So there's the potential there to do so. And hopefully they get the chance.
Last question I'm going to pose it to you. Some of you named Casif. Now, yeah, obviously, when this preview goes live, the draw might have been made. We don't know who we're going to get just yet. So, Jonathan, can Manchester United win the Champions League?
As I put on Twitter last night, stranger things have happened at sea, but probably not much stranger, to be honest. Should
I sit on the fence here, Jonathan?
No, I wouldn't do that, Ian. No, but it's obviously it's highly unlikely, but nothing is beyond the realms of possibility. So yeah, probably I'm going to sit on the fence, aren't I? No, there's that kind of underlying sentiment that last night was merely postponing the inevitable when it comes to us coming up against a decent side and being sort of outplayed over two legs. But it was such a great night last night that I sort of don't care that it's postponed the misery, because it was worth it for last night. So can we make it? Yeah, there's always a chance. I just, it's ridiculously unlikely, but we can dream, can't we?
Ian?
Sort of thinking about echoing sentiments, but I'm also thinking completely positive. As David Moyes says, we've got the capabilities of doing so, apparently, but we've just got to play to them. Say that again.
How many beers have you had tonight? That'll determine how
well this goes down. Just the one, so this is quite considerate.
So, enough sitting on the fence, right? Yes or no? Can Manchester United win the Champions League this season?
Who are we going to first?
I'll go to Jonathan first.
Jonathan's looking right edgy. It's good job Sergi's not here.
I know. I'm going to get a fence just right behind me here. Whenever a question comes up, I don't know the answer. I'm just going to sit on it and and that'll be my answer. No, I'm going to. My heart says, here you go. How about this one? My heart says yes, but my head says no.
What about you, Ian?
I'm going yes. Stick it out there. I've always done so. I'm always been an optimist with United.
When it comes to hosting this,
he paid dividends.
when it comes to hosting this show, I make the rules, so I don't have to ask myself to quit this question. All right,
Come on, Daryl, come on.
No, I think stranger things have happened. Stranger things have happened. You've got Liverpool win 2005. You got Chelsea win in 2012, and then they finished sixth in the league. Stranger things have happened, and I think when it comes to a cup competition, I'm not going to use the cliche and say it's a lottery, because it's not. You need to play well, but you need a bit of luck on your side too, because if you go back to last season, I know we don't want to be talking about this now, but you got Real Madrid, bet them off the pitch at the Bernabeu, took them back to Old Trafford, did pretty much the same thing again. We were all surprised. Then a referee goes and he ruins it. Send it off to Nani, turns the tie on its head, and we go crashing out of the European Cup. We deserved to go through that night. So, who's to say this in the next round? We're not going to get Real Madrid. We play the first leg at Old Trafford, go back to the Bernabeu. Maybe Cristiano or Di Maria or one of those gets sent off, and we turn the tie on their head. Who knows? Because it's Champions League, and these things have happened before. Who's to say it won't happen again? But referees, when it comes to English teams, it's usually us. Especially in Europe.
Excuse here?
Sorry?
Are you looking for an excuse to sit on the fence? To blame the referee?
No, what I'm saying is it's an open cup, and teams have won it in the past that have surprised everyone. Liverpool, yeah, Liverpool mainly. And then you've got Chelsea, who we've touched on. You've got FC Porto, who would have known they would have won it that year? Who would have known Monaco would have got to the final with them? It's things like that in the Champions League that you're kind of thinking, anything can happen. But anyway, we're going off point. This is a preview for West Ham. Predictions, lads. Jonathan? No sitting on the fence this time.
He didn't sit on the fence last time. He gave us a straight answer. He thought we were going out.
I did. I said 3-1. I was so happy to be wrong. I'll say 2-1 United.
Ian?
You're thinking we're going to concede a counter-attacky goal or something?
Yeah.
Sort of flick on from Carroll.
David Moyes on goal.
No, we've had plenty of them.
No, with the form thing, obviously, like you said, they've lost the last two, but they've won the last three, haven't they, at home?
Yeah.
And they're obviously in a bit of a false position in the league, because even though they're in mid-table, it's really tight down there. So they are going to be battling, aren't they? They're going to be battling for everything, you'd imagine. So it's going to be quite tight. But go on, what are you thinking then, Ian?
I'm going 3-1.
3-1?
I think we'll concede, but I think there's a good couple of goals in there to be had.
You think
if we pick up on the form from Olympiacos, but saying that'd be going completely against trend this season, because we always seem to win one and then lose the next.
Yeah, and it was quite nice to see Moyes acknowledge that in the post-match interview. He said, when he was asked whether this is going to now be the catalyst for good form, even Moyes himself said, "Listen, I've stood here and told you that this is going to hopefully be the springboard now for the next few games, but obviously it's not quite happened." So I kind of admired his honesty in a weird, sort of way there. I did quite like that, but yeah, obviously, hopefully, it will be the catalyst.
I'm going for a 2-0 win. I think we'll keep a clean sheet. David De Gea the other night was superb, and this season at times it could be so much worse if it wasn't for him. He's saved us so many times this season when we've messed up defensively, and it's just been top. So that's it for this preview. We'll be doing a review, of course, as we always do after the game. Come on, United, and don't forget, subscribe. Stretty News TV, like, comment, do all you want. We'll get back to you, we'll reply. We appreciate all the comments and subscriptions and the likes and the whole lot. And you want to say, lads, before we wrap up?
Ladies
first.
My prediction comes through. Hey, easy. No, let's hope my prediction comes through again. I should actually start putting some money if it does.
I thought you were going to get this in at some point.
Yeah, why not?
I've just got a text, lads. Serge said he thinks we're going to lose 3-0. Just thought I'd let you know that. He's such a bad fan, isn't he?
Yeah. Right. Thanks for watching, lads, and make sure you press that subscribe button.